Outside of things that can cause death or physical harm, my greatest fear is people misunderstanding me. I think it's one of the reasons I'm drawn to writing as a career. Writing gives me the room to organize and lay out my thoughts. Sometimes those stories are true and autobiographical, sometimes they're fiction, but clarity is important to me. It's so frustrating when people don't get it. When I have something complicated in my life, I tend to go quiet and not tell people about it other than my therapist, who often tells me that I need to tell other people about it too. Communication is important, but so is being understood clearly. And sometimes I need the space and the time to understand just how I'm going to explain what I'm going through. I need to get the words exactly right so that you can fully see the situation exactly as I experienced it. I don't want to come across as crazy, but more importantly, I don't want you, the reader or listener, to assume things that I didn't intend. We all think we know what's really going on, and our smarty pants brains love to fill in the gaps even before the story is finished. I hate it when people do that, even though I'm absolutely guilty of it as well. This week's film, 2020's The Invisible Man, is a triggery smorgasbord for those who have been victims of abuse, gaslighting, stalking, and or sexual assault, and it also goes hard into what it feels like to not be understood or believed. Cecilia, played by Elizabeth Moss, is being stalked and controlled and attacked by an invisible man, and everyone treats her like she's fucking nuts, and good God, it's horrifying to feel so alone. Fortunately for Cecilia, though, she gets a pretty fucking great "told y'all." Meanwhile, I would have just never said a word and disappeared into the woods forever. I can't explain this shit at all. See ya. Hi, Cecil.
Hey, Jeffrey.
What's your favorite "told you so" moment? Do you have one? Do you keep receipts on moments where you're like,
Oh
yeah,
no. Oh, do I have told you so moments? Oh no. No, I don't think so.
I
No, I would never.
don't think I do either. Like shortly after a moment where it's like let's say it's like directions to a place, and
Sure.
somebody's riding with you and they're like, yeah, you'll turn left here. And I'm like, no, it's straight ahead. And they're like, no, turn left here. And then we turn left and then we get lost and we find out it was a block further ahead. So
Yeah.
I'll think about that for like a day or so, but like clearly I don't have.
You kind of let it go.
Yeah, you eventually just have to sort of let that shit go. But I do have a lot of those moments where you're in the shower the next morning and you're like, man, I wish I would have just stuck to my guns. They would have been like, you're so smart. I should always listen to you.
You're like, yeah, I'm totally right.
I'm
I knew
totally right.
I
Uh,
can be right.
I know where restaurants are on streets.
That's right. I know how these things work.
Yeah, we were just talking about briefly about this movie before we started recording. And I was watching it. This is being recorded during the championship series in baseball, and I last night was like, okay, just an hour and 45 minutes left of this very intense movie, and I get to watch baseball. This movie is relentless, Cecil. I mean, we
So
wanted
it's
scary,
intense.
and we
Yeah.
got scary.
Yeah. Yeah. This is actually the first time that I've completed this movie because I did start this, like, I think in 2020, 2021, when it came out. I tried to watch it, and man, I made it to the restaurant scene and I was like, I'm done. I need a break. And I think I went off and walked away and never came back
Yeah, I was gonna say the
until
rest.
now.
You know, um, it's a very good and compelling movie. Like it grabs you by the collar and does not let you go for 2 hours and 4 minutes or whatever the
Yeah.
runtime is on this thing. And yeah, it's good. Let's get into this thing. So we open with dark waves crashing on dark rocks on a dark beach,
Dark waters.
dark waters, and the just uh just so cheesy. You can there's a little bit of James Wan in this, and Lee Winnell, who directed this movie, is a collaborator with James Wan. I think worked on Insidious and maybe Saw as well. And yeah, there's a this movie, this opening credit scene. I kind of thought it was framing this movie as a little bit more fun than it was going to be,
Oh
because it's the
no.
water splashing up over the rocks, and then it makes
Yes.
the credits appear like the water
Yeah.
is creating the lettering.
But it's invisible. It's
I
invisible
know.
lettering. But
To
no,
be
there's no fun to be had in this movie from that moment on. You
No,
you you got it.
I will make an argument that I think the last like 10 minutes of this movie is really fun.
Oh yeah, when it's like a little more James Bondy,
It's
like a
a
little
little
more
bit more
like spy
revenge,
versus spy.
and revenge story too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
truth.
that's fun. But no, this is Cecilia Cass, played by Elizabeth Moss, played brilliantly by
Oh my
Elizabeth Moss.
God.
She's so good in this movie because she has to do some crazy actor shit. She has to fight
Yeah,
an invisible person in this movie.
yeah. Or she has to like talk to an invisible person throughout much of this movie, or just look at a patch on the ceiling and be like, "I know you're there." Over in and do that like in multiple different ways, in different, and she's of course like so amazing at finding like really subtle differences in all of this.
I don't have the acting experience that you have, Cecil. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. Like in my mind, there are two different. Hold on, let me wait for a police car to stop. Boom, boom, blink. Okay. In my mind, there are two different parts of your brain for two
Yeah,
different acting things. And one part of your brain says this is how you perform a character who is trapped in an abusive, controlling, imprisoning relationship. And
sure.
there's the other part of your brain that stores the information. This is how you play a character who has to fight an invisible enemy in a movie. Like, and she has to do both sometimes
Yeah,
like simultaneously in this
yeah.
film. And I think that's nuts. I don't know. Is that how acting works?
It is how acting works.
Okay, great.
You've cracked it. Cracked the code.
This is the Da Vinci Code of acting.
That's right. And Elizabeth Moss is the Rosetta Stone.
That's right. So she slips out of bed. It's like 3:42 a.m.
Yep.
She
They're
picks
in
up.
a $1 billion mansion by the sea. Can we
Oh
talk about
my
this
God.
house for a second? This
Please go
house
on.
is like the coldest millionaire bunker. Like, not since The Menu have I seen a more sterile, cold horror movie set.
It is. I don't understand quite how you live in a place like this. The house on a hill is definitely a thing in
Sure.
filmmaking, right? Like
Yeah,
we
of
see a
course.
lot of LA set movies where somebody owns a house up in the hills on
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive that's got a pool that overlooks the entire city or whatever. And that sort of makes some sense in the context of Los Angeles. But this is nowhere near anything. They live on fucking Alcatraz.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, like, and I think at one point the Lyft driver is even like, Jesus, you live way the hell out there. But I think you're right. There's always something interesting in film and literature throughout. Like, I think we're constantly like, what are those crazy rich people doing up on those hills?
Yeah.
Like, what are the psycho mind games that are being played in these like far away, tucked away private places? And we are getting like the most intimate look at how terrible it can be to
Well,
be.
in this documentary, we find out that the rich person on a cave has on a hill. The rich person on a hill has a bat cave and a pet girlfriend.
Yep.
Like those are the
Yeah.
yeah, that's totally what he has. She she slips out of bed. We see this bottle of diazepam
Yeah.
pills that she puts into her bag. We realize later what she's done is she's poisoned his, or she's put them in his
She's
water to
drugged.
knock him out.
Yeah.
She's
She's
drugged
drugged
him.
her husband.
And she's taking the pills with her so that he doesn't know that's what she did.
Yeah.
And then she grabs she's got a hidden compartment inside the closet that he doesn't know about. That she has her duffel. She gets dressed. She sneaks out. She goes through the bat cave.
Yeah.
Of all of his crazy science and computer machinery. She turns off all the cameras, disables the alarm, accidentally kicks the metal dog bowl, but it's fine.
It's okay. We're still tiptoeing.
Until she runs into Zeus, the good dog, Zeus.
Good dude. Oh,
Zeus doesn't bark. Zeus doesn't do anything. She's like, I'm sorry, Zeus, you can't go with me, but here, let me help you get that collar off.
that electroshock collar that we have installed on you, which I think is a really nice touch to set up in the beginning. We're like, oh, okay. Even before we get into talking about controlling relationships, the sort of like dog collar is metaphor for the technology in this movie is kind of sets up. We're like, oh shit, how she treats this dog, we understand is like how she wants to be treated.
Yeah.
Like freedom.
But she knocks she bumps into the car, setting off the alarm. So she's got to fucking jump the fence and get the hell out of there. And she makes it to the road, and she has called her younger sister, Emily, to come pick her up on this stretch of road. Emily is late, but then finally shows up, and she's like, Emily, just lock the door and drive. She's like, what?
Yeah.
Why? Explain to me what you... And I'm like, fucking drive.
Yeah.
Cecil, I want to make a promise to you. If you ever say, come pick me up at 3:45 a.m. in the craziest batshit corner of the country, and I meet you there, and you get in and you say, lock the doors and drive, I promise you, I will not ask questions until we are at a Waffle House in East Memphis.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There is a certain amount of like urgency that like this character has throughout much of this movie, where I'm like, I know to all the supporting characters, I think, have a moment in which they look at this character and she is like in shambles. This woman is, and they go, is it time to share? Do you want to share with me what he did? And I'm like, no, now is the time to implement the plan. Like, there's literally a scene where Elizabeth, she's like in the kitchen. She's like, I have a plan. You're fucking up my plan. This is, and it sounds insane, but to be honest, she's trying to work a system here.
Yeah.
And the system is escape.
Yeah.
And sure enough, this, but they're like, oh no, just drive. And I love this. We see Adrian, we see the husband sort of swoop in, and he breaks out the car window, which means he's very strong. But it's shot in a way where you never quite see his face. Like, it's kind of a reveal what he really looks like. He's always sort of seen asleep, or very much like he doesn't have a face until much like Act 5.
It's a great point. Yeah, we don't see his face until the final 15 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Well, she gets out of there, but she accidentally
drops the bottle,
drops the diazepam, and he picks it up. 2 weeks later, she is at her old friend James Lanier. He's a detective for the San Francisco Police Department. So she's at Detective James's house with his 17-ish year old daughter,
16,
Sydney.
17-year-old,
yeah. And and poor Cecilia cannot sleep. She looks rough.
She's looking up like how to tell if people are watching you on your webcam. Listen, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. Okay. And I am speaking from someone who has gone through some paranoid, delusional moments in my life. The minute you're looking up like how to tell if people are webcam watching you, then like just take stock.
Yeah.
And
well, we're getting it between Emily and James. These are our two main sidekick characters to Cecilia.
Yeah.
And they both, I think the thing that makes this movie so tough to watch and so suspenseful is from the get-go, they're not entirely on her side. They
think they're on her side.
Yes, which is almost worse, right?
It's almost worse. Yeah.
It's almost worse. It's almost easier when you look at the person holding the knife and running at you, because you're like, well, I know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But then when you have your friends being like, no, we're just here. Maybe we can take you to the doctor and get you on some meds or something. Like, that's the thing where you're like, you're absolutely abandoning me, and you think you're not.
Yeah.
And that makes this movie, I think it ratchets up the tension here. It ratchets up my frustration in the film too a lot.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth Moss does a great job of looking. If you just took some of the scenes where she's trying to explain there's an invisible man attacking me, and you took those out of context and you gave those scenes to somebody who didn't know what this movie was about, didn't know it existed, you'd be like, oh, this is a movie about a crazy lady who has lost her mind.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it's completely believable because we see her life. We see what she's going through.
Yeah.
Okay. Emily shows up to tell her, hey, did you see this news article? Look at my phone. Looks like Adrian, your ex, died by suicide.
Uh-oh.
Founder of this big technology company that makes invisible suits
is
dead.
Oh no. Now we got to talk about the tech in this bat cave. No, we'll get to the tech in the bat cave later, but like the tech is very silly in this. We'll get to that in a minute. This is so bananas to me. Like, who has the time, Jeffrey? Who has the time for all this?
I don't know. It's very like, it's interesting because they've done kind of this amalgam of an Elon Musk type, like a super billionaire guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing about a lot of these billionaires is most of them aren't that technologically adept. And in fact, we learned from his brother Tom, where he's like, actually, his developing skills are not impressive at all. What he's good at is getting in your head. He's good at convincing you that he's an amazing designer, an amazing engineer, an amazing coder, whatever. Well, we're going to meet Tom now because Cecilia and Emily go to meet with Tom, and Tom is the executor of Adrian's estate, and he says, hey, Adrian left you $5 million. You're going to get that $100,000 a month for the next 5 years. The only thing is you can't be convicted of a crime.
Uh-oh.
And you cannot be deemed mentally incapable.
Oh no.
Oh no, I wonder where she's going.
Yeah.
And you got to listen to this whiny fucking letter about, I can't believe you betrayed me, Cecilia. And Emily's like, no, stop. We don't have to let you email that to me. We'll read it later.
Oh my God. And I think from the moment, like, we know that this is like, there's only like 6 people in this cast.
Yes.
And we kind of meet all of them. And at one point, you're like, oh, this brother is going to come back. He knows he looks so shifty.
Yes.
He looks so fucking shifty, which in retrospect, now having seen the movie 1.5 times, you can tell that he's like looking at his brother. Like, because if you think about it, the only time the brother, Adrian would know that they would all be present is at the reading of the will. So like, it does seem very, like, upon retrospect, it seems like Adrian is in the room. I think he even said he's in the room right now, and then looks over at the cremated remains.
Yeah.
But it definitely, just like, everybody is shifty. Everyone is shifty in this movie. They're always just looking at patches on the ceiling or the wall and just like waiting for something to happen. But then, no, okay, no. Now it's gonna tease it out.
This movie is a constant jump scare waiting to happen. This movie is horror edging, is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. This movie will edge you, and it's also day scare. This movie, it really takes like really average, normal, scenarios, and then oops, something terrifying is going to happen because you've just been you've been edged for the last hour and a half.
Yep.
Like, Shirley's now. Oh, no, not yet.
Which is why I think the ending of this movie, as bonkers as it is so satisfying, because you're like, just thank you for releasing me, basically. Yes.
Thank God. Oh.
So Cecilia is staying at James and Sydney's house.
Yeah.
There's a couple of like weird incidents, like a grease fire starts when she's away.
Yeah.
There's also
a knife goes missing. Whoops. In the middle of a nothing shot.
Yep.
We do get, Cecilia's starting to, get on her feet again. She's given some money to the kid to go to Parsons School. She's starting to, like a scholarship account. So, really she's feeling good, right? What could go wrong? She's in the clear.
She starts hearing noises in the house, definitely footsteps and doors. And there's this kind of repeated like clickety click sound that happens. That sounds a little bit like alien invader type of thing. Like there's something kind of, but it's to set up that it's technology doing it, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. I did appreciate this as much as the no one believes our protagonist thing as a frustrating horror movie trope. I did really appreciate that as she hears these noises and starts wandering through the house alone, she starts turning on all of the lights. Because that's what you would do. That's
it.
Literally what you would do. If you heard something weird, you would turn on the lights before walking through a dark house. And she finds the front door is just wide open. And she steps outside on a cool night where you can see her breath. And next to her, she doesn't see it, but we do. There's another breath just
Oh
appearing out
no.
of nothing. And then she is sleeping in the same bed as Sydney. And I'm like, this house seems bigger than a 2-bedroom.
I know, right? That seems odd, but
Yeah.
they're man, I was like, man, they're really close.
Yeah.
Those are really close friends.
Yeah. So she's at night, she and Sydney are sleeping and the covers get pulled off. And then
Oh my God, this is so gross. This is so insanely scary because it just like feels so violating.
Yeah.
When I knew someone, do you remember I knew somebody who was in college, and his freshman roommate, his very first roommate, he like was thought was like a little odd,
Mhm.
but then one day he was asleep and he woke up and his roommate was like kind of like in his face, just like staring at him, and he's like, "Oh God, what is everything okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was just looking at you." He was like, "Oh," and kind of like turned his back to the wall. Something. There's nothing worse. Like, I think it's why, like, what happens to you when you're asleep? You're at your most vulnerable.
Mhm.
So I don't know, having the bedclothes taken off. There's someone like snapping pictures of her and Sydney in bed.
Mhm.
Terrifying.
And we talked about this. This is a similar scare in the movie VHS, right? Where we see at night the camcorder recording her body, but then it shifts over to the husband's body in the bed too, and you
Yeah.
realize, oh shit, there's a third person in here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
realize there's another person that's not
Oh
you
no.
or me, yeah, that's really scary. Again, she wakes up and screams because she sees the footprints. Like the footprints are standing on the sheet she's trying to
Yeah.
pick up
Yeah.
when she wakes up, and she screams and calls for James. And you can see James is like, I don't know, man. You just got to relax. You just
Yeah.
got to get that man, wash that man right out of your hair.
So it seemed really tense. But like, here's the thing: didn't all of her friends know that her husband was making like $1 billion tech stuff, like optics, and like it's like the people in this film have no knowledge of
No.
anything that this husband did before the moment she walked out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because he was, we don't know what this relationship was, so we're only getting it through like like Cecilia's side of like, he was so controlling, like he controlled when I ate, when I slept, when I could leave the house, like that. But you would think like afterwards she'd be like, yeah, he was working on some crazy fucking tech. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Maybe he is Batman. Maybe I married bad Batman.
Yeah. Bad Batman implies there's a true good Batman.
Yeah.
The Yeah, it is weird. I kept my brain kept going to how much I wanted to know the prequel to this movie. I mean, I don't want to watch
Yeah.
a prequel of this movie, but
No, because it
how
would be bleak.
it would be super bleak. But just how much more I wanted to know about Cecilia as a person, say
Yeah.
before she met Adrian.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
was she a person that was a constant drag over no issue? Like, what led to the point where nobody could even fathom listening to this woman? And this movie
Yeah.
comes out post Me Too. Like, I feel like we're
Yeah.
2020. We're well into the dialogue of if a woman looks really upset about somebody hurting her, even if you don't think it's possible, you do have to take it into account and not
Like,
just say,
yeah.
just relax, get some sleep,
Yeah.
you'll be okay.
Like
Okay,
again, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you.
right?
Like, girl, maybe you do need some melatonin, but
Yeah.
also maybe your ex-husband is alive and he is in the room.
Hmm.
Like, we can, let's pursue both options until one of them becomes the winner, I guess. I don't know.
Also, as much as I want to take up Cecilia's side, I do have to give her a demerit for the fact that she continues staying with James, despite the fact that she just got $100,000 a month awarded to her. And she has to know from the get-go, this invisible man is going to be a danger, not just to her, but to
Right.
other fucking people.
It's that whole thing of like, why can't spies fall in love? Because those become your weak points.
Yeah, those are collateral. Yeah.
Yeah. And sure enough, we're gonna,
Oof.
it's gonna get sticky by
Yeah.
the end.
So other weird thing, she goes to the job interview.
Yeah.
She opens her portfolio. I assume she's a designer or an architect, I think.
Architect.
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 And she opens her portfolio at this job interview and it is empty.
And she's like,
Empty.
I know I put my stuff in there. And the most like laid back, like, yeah, sure. No, do you need water? Anything I can do for you? Are you okay? Are you? Oh, and then she kind of stands up and she's like, oh my God, and passes the fuck out.
Which is where she ends up at the hospital where they have told her not to operate any heavy machinery. And also, they call her back with the blood work to say, like, oh, I think you passed out because of the high amounts of diazepam in your
Uh-oh.
blood. She's like,
What?
I'm not on diazepam. And in the bathroom, she finds the bottle of diazepam that she had lost.
And I love it. It's got like it's all like blood splattery.
Uh-huh.
And this is the scene. This is a rough scene. So the next scene is like with Cecilia, James, and the brother Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, look, this is where I dug this. Where she's like, okay, there was a moment in which my husband told me if I ever tried to leave him, he will fuck my shit up.
He will
And
become invisible. He says,
yes,
yeah, he will become
yes,
invisible and he will find her wherever she goes and she will not be able to see him.
like, okay. And everybody goes, yeah, marriage is rough. Like, well, every relationship is different, I guess.
Yeah.
And then she pulls out the bottle and she's like, and I found this. And, I found this. I thought I sort of drugged my husband the night I left. And then I lost the bottle. And then it appeared in my friend's house, but yesterday. And again, both of these dudes are like, well, that's, you found it, you lost it. I don't know. It's a shaky story. Versus, like, I don't know, especially if I was James, i.e. the dude like sleeping next door to Cecilia, I'd be like, wait, you found what? Where?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Tom, to his credit, I think has a much better out here, even though I think it's maybe not a lie, but
Yeah.
a misdirect, which is he says, listen, Adrian's strength was getting in people's heads, not building technology, invisible man suits. Like and you think you were controlled. I was the first to be controlled by him and I hated him. So we got that in common. And I kind of take this as not a lie. Actually, I think it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's it's very clear though that Tom is in cahoots with Adrian somehow.
Mm-hmm.
He does show her pictures of Adrian's bloody dead body from
again,
his
like,
suicide.
but just sort of splashed on the table and like never really examined or like, because I don't know if Cecilia, I'd be like, can you? This is a question for the realities. Can you like take, cremation remains and do a test to find out if that is really of a certain person? Because that's where I would be like, oh, those are his remains. Can I see those 1 minute?
Yeah.
Can we get those tested? Can we,
I'm also sort of curious too. This is a moment here where I'm like, you have an actual cop sitting there with her. My thought is, can I see those photos? That's the minimum I feel like he could be doing. Or at least to like look to see if what police report was written on the case. I imagine anytime somebody dies, there is a report written up somewhere. And I assume if somebody dies in a violent suicide, one that has a lot of blood, especially if they're super wealthy.
Right.
I just, in my mind, there's an investigation.
So like, there's a body. And that now, because we know how the movie ends, somebody was walled into like a cask of the Amontillado style, like into the building. But there was also a dead body. And somebody saw, like, how? Wait,
whose body was that?
Whose body was that? Was that his? Did he get his brother to corroborate? Like, there is a lot of ha 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 ha, like keep the tension ratcheted up, but don't look too closely.
Yeah, look at my right hand. Don't look at my left hand doing the magic trick. Yeah,
but I mean, everything makes like it's like since we are sort of following Cecilia's journey on this, it's like following a trail of breadcrumbs and everything seems like laid out against her. The deck is stacked against her story that her
Mm-hmm.
ex-husband is alive and has invented a remarkably infallible suit and lives purely to stalk the fuck out of her.
Yeah. So Cecilia goes to see Emily, her sister, and Emily's like, "Don't talk to me, bitch."
This what? This scene is so rough. And she's like, "Well, you sent me an email telling me that I'm a burden. You never want to see me anymore." And Elizabeth Moss and Cecilia's like, "No, I did not send that email. It might have been sent from my email address, but I did not send it." And her sister is hearing none of it.
Her sister says, "You need medication. Adrian is dead." And it's so cold to do
Yeah.
that to somebody. Because also, let's just assume you do think somebody needs medication. Let's just assume you think somebody, that a friend of yours, your sister even,
Your own sister,
sent you
sure.
a really, really harsh email, like out of the blue, suddenly,
Yeah.
like this is all brand new. I can't imagine that your first response is to get mad and say, "Don't talk to me," as opposed to, "Listen, we should talk about what
Yeah.
you sent to me." Like, but
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
doesn't do any of that. There's no,
No. She's like,
no.
no. Rough.
Ugh. Okay. So the one person that kind of is nice to Cecilia is young Sydney.
Yeah.
And Cecilia's at home on the floor in James's home crying. And Sydney,
Crying on the floor in the dark.
yep.
Like, come on.
Sydney's like, "Hey, you know what we need? Girls' night."
We just go out and get girls' night, get some cake. And she's like, yeah, cake.
I love cake.
I love cake.
I love that
Because
line.
really, how do you explain this? Like, how do you, like, that's the thing of like this sort of feeling of being controlled and gaslit and like, operated on,
Hmm.
when somebody's operating mental games on you is like, there's no way out, but there's everything has been kind of thought of.
Yeah.
But I think here's the thing, that's only that narrative only works in this sort of like edged up, almost superhero sort of sense. If you think of your villain as infallible, as like a non-stop machine that will never stop, like Terminator style, which is why this is a horror movie, and in real life, people try this shit and hopefully, get found out, get caught, and their stories get shared, and people are like, "Oh, avoid that fucker because he is a narcissistic, egotistical fuckface."
Uh-huh.
But this movie definitely has moments of like the infallibility of this villain is like he's thought of everything. Like he's the fucking Moriarty of stalking,
Yeah.
which makes the movie super tense, but also a little bit unbelievable in places.
It's super unbelievable in many places, but it is he is relentless. Whatever. Well, we'll continue on with the plot and we'll talk about where it seems to fall apart, which is in many places. So at this moment when Sydney is the most kind and understanding of Cecilia, Invisible Man straight up just
Boom.
punches Sydney right across the jaw.
And again, like Celia's like across the room.
Yeah.
And immediately Sydney, even the 16-year-old, is like, "Oh my God, she hit me. You hit me." And again, if you're like sitting over there and I'm over here and I just get clocked in the face, I like generally, like I might not know what happened, but there is that other option of she's saying she didn't do it.
Yeah.
Invisible Man punched me.
Yeah.
But no,
No.
it's very like, again, like the sister, it's like he, this Invisible Man is like closing all the relationship doors as quickly, as efficiently as possible.
Which is what happens in an abusive relationship, in a controlling relationship. You have to cut them off from the rest of the world. So James leaves with Sydney and he's like, "You need to go live at your sister's place. You can't be here now." But they leave her there.
And she fucks up this house.
Oh my God, she trashes this place.
I was like, oh my, okay, like she is like, oh man, what does she do? She spreads like coffee grinds everywhere.
Uh-huh.
Okay, which again, I was like, oh shit, that's actually pretty good. That flour, have you got flour? I
Yeah.
would be literally just like carrying a bag of flour, just like throwing flour into random corners of the
Mm-hmm.
room, you know, from like then on out. um you know, she finally hears, she decides she's going to call her ex's cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
and it buzzes and it rings, and she hears the buzzing, and it is directly above her.
Yes. That's freaky.
Oh my god, she gets out the same ladder that she bought for Sydney,
Uh-huh.
Chekhov's ladder.
Uh-huh.
She goes up into this fucking attic. I'm like, oh my god, you're falling right in. You're just, wow, no,
Yeah.
no, don't do it.
Don't do it,
But
Fly.
she
Don't go near
does.
that web. Don't go near that
Yep,
web.
I know. But sure enough, she's like up in the attic, and it's like, this movie is like very tense, and she's, you know, shining the flashlight everywhere. And what does she find in that attic? She finds a fucking steak knife in a plastic bag,
Mm-hmm.
which she immediately takes out of the plastic bag and just gets her fingerprints like all over that knife.
Yep.
She finds the keys to the house, presumably, or
Mm-hmm.
something, the cell phone, and I think, oh, and then like a giant book
Oh,
of how to.
it's her work portfolio
Oh,
that
that's
he's
her work
I
portfolio.
think
Okay, I
that's her
thought.
work portfolio. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Because
think.
in my mind, I was like, is that the like how to make the super suit, the
Oh no.
Ant-Man, Invisible Man super suit?
No, I
Because
think
that
he's
would be
showing
weird
off
that
I stole your work
I stole
portfolio.
your shit. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's also photos on the phone of
Oh
her and
yes.
Sydney sleeping that he took. And then he texts her on that phone, surprise.
Oh my god.
And
She's
she,
like looking around her,
mm,
nothing.
so
Sure.
tense. So tense. And then she opens the
But
hatch
yep, to
to
go
the,
back down,
oh, and she
and she gets
pours
that feeling.
paint. Yep. And she pours paint onto the floor, but it catches his suit. So you see the brief outline in
And
white
he's like
paint.
inches away from her face.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we like see the suit, like that there
Mm-hmm.
is the mechanical apparatus. Okay, so now, now it's on. But
Mm-hmm.
instead of like following him right away while he's still painty,
Mm-hmm.
he has to kind of like sit back for a minute and kind of let him get a head start, because you know that's how horror movies work.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes it to the kitchen, washes off the paint. Now here's the thing, Jeffrey. Have you ever
Yes.
tried to get like a thumbprint off of your eyeglasses, or like
Yes.
eye schmutz off of, like, that shit smudges.
If you've
There,
ever painted your walls in your
if you've ever
house,
painted
just
anything, yeah,
getting it off of your fingers, let alone a very delicate piece of electronics that covers your body,
that is not only a camera and an iPad times 1,000.
and a projector that makes you invisible, and it all went on your head. So did he shove his head into that sink?
Yeah,
It makes no sense.
sure,
Sure.
sure.
Why not?
Yeah, he's just very efficient. He's evil Batman.
Yeah, because in the kitchen, he picks her up and starts choking her and throwing her around the fucking
hard.
room.
Oof. This is rough. This is like what's love got to do with it level of like domestic
Yeah.
violence, except it's only one-sided, because she's like wrestling with, like, she like tries to grab a pan, and like, you just see her, like move in a way that's like him trying to get the pan out of her hand, and he like throws her up against a wall and across a table. It's brutal, man.
It is really brutal. She manages to smash his head with dishes and runs out into the street. And as she gets further away, she manages to get an Uber that will take her to Stinson Beach.
I know. I do love the sort of technology, like shout out to Lyft.
So it's a long way out there. That guy takes
Oh
her.
my God.
And she goes, that's where the evil mansion on a hill is. And she goes into his lab, and she finds his weird compartment that has another invisible suit that you can't see until you take it off
Like,
of the wires, and then it becomes visible.
ridiculous. And also it's like she has to like think about, she's like, okay, what's the, she's locked out of this, and it's the only, door.
Yeah.
She's like, how do I get in? And it's the date that they met.
Like 12,
So like,
14, 17 is like their meet date.
so like, the keypad, and she's like, oh, how romantic. As in, like, from the day he met her, he's been creating this idea of making an invisible suit so he could like stalk her. Fucking creepy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she gets this invisible suit off, folds it up, sneaks upstairs into the bedroom closet, and shoves it into her little cubby hole.
Yeah. Stashes it because she's like, this is like tangible proof, right?
This will be proof that this is the thing he made. And while she's hiding in the closet, she knows he's there too. Door slides open to the closet. Brief attack, but then Zeus shows up.
Yep. Kind of like, kind of keeps him at bay so she can escape.
And who's a good dog? Who's a good dog?
Yeah.
A good Zeus. And she gets back to the Uber waited for her. I didn't know they would do that.
Thank God.
I guess she said, wait for me and take me home.
Yeah, she did. She's like, this might take 2 minutes. This might take 20 minutes. Just please wait for me. And he did.
So she calls Emily and is like, listen, you have to meet me for dinner at the noisiest restaurant in San Francisco. Like the most, like not a diner, not a quiet, casual, small place. No. The most busy, noisy place in the world.
Yeah. Because surely that will be my alibi.
I'm not saying listen, I don't want anyone to die, fiction or not, necessarily, but if you're gonna have to kill off a sidebar character, I'm glad it was Emily, because she kind of sucks. The way she treats this waiter, I know we say how characters treat children and animals is how you judge, but also how you treat waiters is a big thing.
That's right.
How you treat service industry people is a big indicator of your character.
Hi, I'm Taylor. Have you ever been here before? We do things a little differently. We share. And she's like, yeah, we've been to restaurants before. We know how restaurants work. He's like, okay, well, do you want any sparkling? So she's like, just the free kind of water. You're like, okay, all right. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, man, can we just get some water? Can you give us like 15 minutes? We just need to hash some things out real quick.
Yeah.
See you in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you when I need to order. How about that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Taylor. Bye.
Yeah. Taylor handles this with aplomb. He's just like, great.
Does.
We'll like, see you in a while. Well, we're gonna
not all. He won't see all of them because they're the Invisible Man is present, and like this is the big. We know that their relationship has been so up and down and up and down. And Celia's like, she's really, really laying on that acting job. Like, I love you. You're my sister. You're so strong. You're the strength I need. And then sure enough, there's a fucking knife just floating in the air. Sister goes, huh?
And then next thing she knows, that knife has cut Emily's throat open.
Yep.
And then flown right into Cecilia's hand.
And she's like,
and everyone in the restaurant turns and looks, screams, and flees.
Wild.
It is wild. And she gets next thing
now here's the thing. Surely that restaurant had camera footage. One
would think.
I've worked in restaurants and they do. Like, because everybody's trying to like make sure you're not stealing shit or coat check or whatever, but like, from this point on, Cecilia is sort of like in the system.
Yeah.
It becomes very much like Unsane, takes on those kind of vibes. So like part of it's like her building a case and like what we can prove and what we can't prove legally and like this whole thing. But I was like, did nobody else? I mean, clearly nobody saw the knife float in the air and kill a person like, Harry Potter magic wand style. But there might be footage. Maybe. I'm just saying maybe.
One would think.
And maybe her cop friend would have checked that. out.
One would think, but you're right. It is just playing at the unsane thing, wherein
Yeah.
we've already clocked this person as crazy.
Right. So why
So
dig?
why there's no
Why
yeah.
like
And,
we have a woman who, oh, and the next thing it's like her talking to James. He's like, it's like her running out of his house after being
yeah.
terrified, tortured by, he's like, is that you? And she's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, why keep digging if you have a perfectly plausible answer?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's kind of like, maybe I answered my own question too about like, why wouldn't they investigate this billionaire's apparent suicide any deeper
Right.
than they did? Because you're going to give people like that the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You're gonna give the Jeff Bezos and the Mark Cubans and the Elon
Yeah.
Musks of this world like the benefit of the doubt, right? And you're not going to give a woman who is constantly looks like completely mentally torn up and
Yeah.
tired and is saying
Yeah.
an invisible man is stalking me. At that point, hey, people got a sense that they pretty much think that they saw her slash her sister's throat in the
Yeah.
crowded restaurant. That's probably what happened.
That's
We
what we
need
got.
to look
Now
for
here, I'm gonna ask a weird question. I couldn't help but think about this throughout this film, Jeffrey. And that is like, I know Elizabeth Moss is a Scientologist. And I
Mhm.
just kept thinking about like how this is played in the Scientology world. This idea of like using
Oh.
information, and like recording information, getting to know your controlling your, like a lot of those techniques aside. And I was like, I do wonder, like, what is the like it just feels very, I don't know, it just added another layer of icky onto this movie of just like just thinking about Scientology and
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
how that's same but different. Oh, it just made me feel weird.
I mean,
Made me It's only
abuse.
45 minutes until you get to watch baseball, is what I'm saying.
That's right. So solo abusers work very much like cults, right? And cults
Yeah.
work like solo
Yeah.
abusers, like that you have to separate the person from their closest friends and family. You have to
Yeah.
alienate them from society, and you
You
have
find out
to
you have to kind of control their, their biological functions and
yeah,
then keep those in a constant state of disarray.
yeah.
When you think you're comfortable, that's when
If you can't
fucked up.
beat them, make them join you is kind of the
Yes.
idea.
Yeah.
And that's really what you break them down until they realize, my only benefit is just being in your
Yeah.
shitty relationship or shitty
Keep
cult.
my mouth shut.
Yeah. I think that's such an incredible question about Scientology, though. I wonder how much somebody like Elizabeth Moss thought about that in
I
doing this
know.
movie. I wonder how much the director or casting director thought about that in
Right?
casting Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
Great questions that I did not research prior to this, but mind vitamins, how's that?
I don't
Just
know. Sure, why not?
yeah. Okay,
Well,
so
she gets arrested as fuck.
yep. And she gets interviewed by the cops, including James, and she's still trying to tell him, I've got proof that he's alive, and he's not here to hear any of that. Like he's not
Yeah.
going to do any of that. Also, the nurse comes in, so she's held as a prisoner in a mental
Yeah, yeah. She's
health
like in a
facility.
like a high security mental
Yeah.
place.
And the nurse comes in to say, hey, we ran your blood tests. Did you know you're pregnant?
Uh-oh.
Which is weird because this feels like a writer throw-in moment here
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
she's like, well, I just had blood work like 2 weeks ago. And she's like, did that lady not tell you?
Well, actually, that woman did. There was a kind of ellipses
Uh-huh.
because she was being psychologically tortured by her ex-husband at the time.
Uh-huh.
So we just didn't hear that part of the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
It is like that conversation did kind of like tail off at the end, as in like the person had other things to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was when she was finding some horrible clue of doom
Mm-hmm.
and just going, what the fuck? I gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So now Tom has come to the medical prison to see her, and he's essentially like, listen, your $5 million payments are being halted because
Null
you
and
committed
void.
a crime and you've proven yourself not mentally stable. And He's like, if you just
But
forfeit your share of the trust, it'll be a lot easier. It'll save you a lot of money. Just sign
yep.
here.
And he gets real quiet.
Mm.
And he's like, or you just promise to have that baby and go back to Adrian, and everything will be fine.
Unbelievable.
Just here, take this phone. Take this phone. Just give him a call, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? How would you spin this? Okay, so like, let's say she does go back to him and she's like, you know what? Fuck this. Let's go. Let's, this sounds like a great way to make a family. So you're the man. Let's have this baby. Like, is he going to be resurrected? Are they going to like all get new names and move to Bolivia? Like what?
How?
What?
I don't understand. And
where is this money? Are there board members that should know about this?
I don't understand any of this plan. I also don't understand the security level at this prison, because at this medical prison, because you not only have a person who you presume murdered her sister by slashing her throat in a public place at a restaurant and has been acting high levels of crazy. So your thing is, well, let's let her alone with this person who's just this random accountant guy or lawyer guy in a room with who's the brother of her ex-husband, who now we're like, did he commit suicide? Did she kill him?
Yeah.
Let's just let her alone with him with no handcuffs, no restraint, and no observation. None of that makes any sense at all. This is, I hope to God this is not how we do things in prisons, but she manages to, she gets mad, throws all of his papers off the table.
Yeah. She's like, fuck that. He's still alive. I know he's not dead.
Yeah.
I know, you can't, I'm never going back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also
she does grab a pen.
She grabs a
really nice ballpoint pen.
Fancy pen.
Fountain pen.
She also, Tom had said basically he replaced your birth control at the end. You thought you were on birth control, but he had replaced it.
Those were M&Ms, actually.
Those were M&Ms. My understanding of birth control, although I don't, most of them are M&Ms except for like a 1 week period, right?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong game, man.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, so it just implied that he had to have
been
doing this for a while. He had to have been
doing
doing this for a while. It's not just like one pill you take once a month. I don't think, unless they've changed it. It's been a while since I've concerned myself with birth control pills. So he says, yeah, you don't really have the choice right now. She steals his pen and he gets on his way. And at night in the shower, she takes the ink pen out of its hiding place and says,
my God.
You're never
gonna have me.
You're never gonna have me.
You're never gonna have my baby.
Fuck you. And
Fuck
she starts
you.
stabbing her wrist open with this pen. And he
stops her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this moment of like, she's like, there you are.
Yeah.
As in like she's been trying to like get him to show himself. And admittedly, this is the beginning of the downfall, because he takes out like 12 people. 12 fucking security guards.
This plan makes no sense at all. I don't understand his plan. I mean, I do. I mean,
understand, Jeffrey. I don't understand how he's in the room even. Has he just been in there the whole time? He's just like waiting. Like he doesn't have to pee.
Well,
he doesn't have to shit. He doesn't have to eat. He's just been hanging out in the room like for hours and hours.
The night nurse comes in to give her pills and check her mouth.
Maybe he snuck in then.
I think that's the idea, because they show the open door behind the night nurse.
Okay.
So that's my guess. The thing is, we're gonna learn, spoiler for 10 minutes ahead in this film, we're gonna learn that the person in that suit is not Adrian, but Tom.
Tom. Yep.
The thing I don't understand is, what is Tom's end game here?
Right.
Did Adrian say, hey, do whatever you gotta
try? She's gonna try and kill herself, so you have to make sure she doesn't.
And then
like stay with it.
And then if anybody tries
to escape.
Yeah, he just seems so, I can't tell if you are a cold-blooded killer with an invisible man suit on,
Yeah.
I think what's happening here, because she stabs him with the pin several times,
Yeah.
it breaks the suit, so it's
Yeah.
flickering.
Yeah.
So he's sometimes invisible, sometimes not. And as these security guards start seeing him, he has to make the choice of, do I just derail the whole thing
Yep.
and kill them all?
Yeah.
Or do I murder one, frame her, and then get the fuck out of there? And
He
my
goes
thing
for
is,
option A.
yeah, and he goes for option A. And this plan makes no sense. I don't
Yeah.
understand what he's doing. And I guess because it's Tom, he assumes Adrian will take the fall. I don't know.
Yeah. Or something.
Something.
But he's like leaving. So he leaves like, and this is a, long action sequence again. Like Elizabeth Moss is on the ground being like, he's right behind you. And some hapless security guard is like, huh? What? Say, get down on the ground. She's like, I'm on the ground. No, just look over your shoulder, dummy. Shot, shot, shot. But that happens quite a few times. She finally like grabs a gun. She follows him out into the night, and it's they've sort of established it's like a heavy thunderstorm. So, maybe she can see him in the rain.
Yeah.
It's a very rainy parking lot, cat and mouse.
Yeah. I miss
like
this part.
She's like checking under cars and shit like that.
I miss this part because in the 30 minutes where he's just picking off random security guards, where I'm like, I've seen the scene. I'm like, I'm clicking over to find out that the Houston Astros have gone up 5-4 in the ninth, and I'm like, nah, motherfuckers. So yeah, she's
still fleeing for her life, but also sort of hunting him because she's not fleeing for her life. Like actually, a security guard has been left alive, has seen a flickery suit.
Yeah.
So she now has a corroborative witness, right? And
yeah.
she picks up the gun, and the security guard goes, "Don't do anything stupid."
Yeah.
She like runs out the door after him.
Yeah. Tom, as we'll learn, this is Tom, but Invisible Man gets in a car and drives away.
Yeah.
Drives crazy, causes another car to wreck.
Yep.
She then just carjacks that car.
She's like, get out of that car. I need that car.
And this man had clearly been talking to his wife, and his wife's on the phone being like, are you okay, honey? What's wrong? And she's like, shut up, lady.
He's fine. He's fine. Your husband's fine. Who is this? Doesn't matter. I'm a rich white woman in San Francisco. I need this car.
So she calls James to say, okay, I forgot the thing. The last thing that the Invisible Man said to her was, I'm not ever going to hurt you.
Yeah.
But I will kill someone you love, which implies Sydney.
Yeah.
And so she's now like, shit. So she calls James, says, where's Sydney? She's at her house.
Over there.
It's like, get over there. Sydney, to her credit, wakes up hearing sounds, grabs her bear spray.
And it's just like spraying an empty room. Girl, this would have been me. Like, I would have been that 16-year-old, just being like, I don't care. You know what would have been the best defense against the Invisible Man? Hairspray.
Yeah.
Like, what? All you have to do, again, the infallibility of the cleanliness of this magical suit.
I'm
like, anything. If you've gotten, like, we just have to mark him, track him. It's kind of like an M. Remember when we watched M? And like what made that sort of chase sequence of like ratcheting up tension was so amazing is that you only have to mark him once and then the chase is on. Like through higgledy-piggledy and like up and down and through, in buildings, out of buildings. But as long as you have like tracking like one eye on him across the city like that, I'm not saying that, but this could have had a similar kind of thing of like, once you mark him, then you just have to keep tabs on him.
Yeah.
But he bounces back very well, the Invisible Man does.
Yeah. He's also really inefficient at this too, because I just don't understand Tom's plan here. Like, I understand the plan. Go to the house, defenseless teenager. You should have had a gun. You should just walk into the house, shoot her, and then walk out, because you're not going to get caught.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why he's toying around with any of this shit.
The shit out of James, and
yeah, he's wasting all this time. Like, just, you know what? run away and regroup.
Yeah. No.
But he doesn't do
Nope.
that. Cecilia shows up as James is getting beaten to a pulp, sprays him with the fire extinguisher, then just shoots him to death. I wrote, now do you believe her, James?
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, oh, now do you believe in the Invisible Man?
There's no moment in this movie where anyone apologizes to this woman. Not a moment. Nobody says you were right. And listen, when it comes to was I right in going straight or were you right in turning left? Listen, I might have been right on how to get to that restaurant. You don't ever have to say I'm sorry for getting it wrong. You don't. It's a minor thing. If you gaslight me to the point where I am in fucking mental prison,
yeah.
You better just say I'm sorry.
Can you imagine the Hallmark card? Sorry for gaslighting you from Hallmark. It's a whole new line they're coming out with. It's the gaslight edition. It's the like manipulative X. Like, I've deleted all of your friends' numbers from your phone, so you can't call for help.
Does the front of the card say, I'm sorry for gaslighting you, but to be fair, ... You have to open the card.
You deserved it. You made me do this to you. I love you forever.
Oh my
till
God.
death do us part.
So they take off his, so they
now
take off
Tom
his mask.
Jesus Christ. 20 minutes so we get to watch baseball.
Yes. So they realize it's not Adrian, it's Tom. Dun dun dun. Now, the SWAT team shows up at Adrian's house. They hear someone screaming for help in the dungeon.
Jeffrey Cranor, what is happening here?
I don't know. And it's Adrian tied up in his basement being like, help me.
I mean, how could he possibly have installed that drywall by himself? Or had, it's almost like he has like all this money. You can just pay people to do it.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
But no. He looks like a victim, so he must be a victim, Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Or so says James, the friend. He's like,
hashtag believe men. Yeah.
Why hashtag believe men? I mean, I found him drywalled into his own house. Seems pretty plausible to me. And Celia's like, no, absolutely not.
And fuck you, James. James is like, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure Adrian's fine. You'll be able to avoid him.
Again, I'm also like, clean slate. No. But see, Celia knows. She's like, no. This movie will not end until one of them is dead. Like, I think, and you know what? Here's why I appreciate Elizabeth Moss's performance, because from the beginning, she's going to get hers. Like, you really do feel she's going to get hers from the moment one. And sure enough, we come to our last scene. She calls the cell phone, the forbidden cell phone.
Yes.
It's like, oh, is this Celia? I'm so glad you called. She's all tonight on House on Haunted Hill Murder House. This is so wild. And it's really interesting. I like how they did this where he's there. And now we see this person, we see what has been this sort of borderline Moriarty level, the super villain. Like this Moriarty of crime kind of super villain is now fully shot, like right in front of us.
Yeah.
And one, he's super handsome, which of course everybody's like, oh, okay, of course, we find the most attractive actor we can find. But there's something about watching really attractive people trying to like pretend to be broken. And I'm like, you're not doing a great job. You look like you've lived a very charmed life, and you're trying to like, and it's a very constructed performance. He's like, at one point he's like, I ordered sushi and also steak because I didn't know. Like, I'm like, you are trying to play penitent, discombobulated, and I don't believe you're either of those things.
No. So she says to him, listen, yeah, if you want to be part of this child's life, great. But it means honesty. And I need you to admit everything you did, which is very clearly like, you didn't even need to show me James in the
I know, right?
Unmarked cop car outside the property.
Could you speak into this button on my jacket? Just a little bit louder?
And he won't do it. He just
No.
won't do it. So she
Yep.
tries the sobbing ploy,
Yep.
which brings
Yep.
him closer.
Mhm.
And he says, you know, I know you better than anyone in the world. And she finally says, you know what? I think you're right. He won't admit to it, but she's like, let me go get cleaned up and we'll have dinner.
Great.
Well, she's gone for a little bit. He's sitting there staring across the table, being like, I wonder where she could be. Then suddenly there's a knife at his throat and it is cut right open and he just
Yep.
bleeds out.
Yep. But sort of like shoved into his hand.
Yes.
And then he does it.
Yep.
And there's CCTV of like a very fully,
Yep.
very presented. Like she knew if he sits in his normal chair, then this will be captured by this camera and it'll look like he did this to himself.
Yep.
James is like, what's the fuck is going on?
Yeah. And she
comes back out of the bathroom in her cocktail dress, is like, oh my God, Jay, oh, Adrian, 911, somebody's been injured. Oh no. And then the second she's out of the sightline of the cameras, just drops the act. Cold-blooded.
And James shows up. And again, fucking James clearly does not believe her story.
Yeah.
And in this case, she actually is lying that he killed himself.
Yes.
But James is like, James, you doofus, you do not get this. You're a cop. You should fully understand what it means to be like, oh, guess that evidence just speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yep. She's like, what did you think happened? Well, I think that he killed himself. Good job. Good detective work.
Who's a good cop? Who's a good cop?
Who's a good cop? You got it. You get a treat for letting this woman get away with murder.
Yeah.
Because she deserves it.
She did.
I also love that she's just fully carrying the like invisibility suit like in her Birkin bag.
Yes.
Just like unbothered. And she's like, oh, oops, did you see that? Oh no. Don't tell anyone or else it'll be the invisible woman.
That's right. I hope she puts that thing up on Etsy just to see what happens.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Can you imagine like somebody putting up invisible suit actually works on Etsy and it's like $25,000. You're like, could you get somebody to buy it?
25,000. I think we're like 250,000. Like the amount of money is like
yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but James finally capitulates and is like, yep. Sounds like he was unstable and killed himself.
Case closed.
Dusting off our hands.
Yep. And like the last shot is Elizabeth Moss just like walking out, and she has this moment of like inhale, exhale, like I am finally free.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
And you're free of your sister too. Like you win.
Ooh, rough.
Shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
Okay, let's talk about approachability first on our Sasha scale, squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse. How approachable is this? I'll give it a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all approachable and a 10 being super approachable. I mean, on that 1 to 10 scale, I would give The Invisible Man like 2 out of 10. Birkin bags with Invisible Man suits in them. Birkin bags. Yeah, it's tense. It's not super bloody. There's a couple of throat slashing scenes.
I don't know. I think it is rather bloody, Jeffrey, because it's very like there are a few of those scenes, like more like 5.
Yeah.
But they're very much like you see everything kind of bloody.
Yeah, the 2 throat slashing scenes are pretty graphic, and that second one, the one on Adrian, is really graphic. Yeah, I just thought there wasn't a ton in it. It struck me as the level of violence in a psychological thriller. But listen, I would say if you're just getting into horror movies, this is not a place to start. It's trigger, like I said earlier, it's very triggery for anyone who's dealt with relationships like this. It's really intense, that type of controlling, abusive, cult-like level of relationship is really hard to watch. And this movie, it's not a sidebar in this film. It is the film itself. So yeah, 2 out of 10. Like, yeah, work your way up to this one is what I would say. As a horror film, Cecil, how would you rate this movie?
I mean, this is a pretty good one. It's just, it's horror. It's very tense thriller. If you stopped, it does verge into like comic book territory in the you're like, just go with it. Just it's a super suit. Just
Yeah.
go with it, man. Don't think about it too much. So for that reason, I'm gonna knock it down like maybe a peg or two, but like it is definitely if you like psychological thrillers, this is a pretty good one. So for that reason, I'm gonna say 7 out of 10 busted up ladders.
Well, actually, I wanted to say one more thing. Like going back to the thing I said at the beginning, which is I had this promise of this movie with the opening credits because they are so creative, of this being a little bit more silly and fun at points, which it's not until the final revenge at the end. But this is somebody who's been a creative partner with James Wan, who did Malignant, which is one of
Yes.
the most fun movies of the last
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
years. And yeah, this movie has fun with the last few minutes with the final revenge.
Yeah. When it gets a little like Knives Out
Yeah.
ish, you know?
But yeah, I really was hoping that this movie would be a little bit more like capery at points.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
guess it's
Yeah.
hard to do with the subject matter being this intense.
That's exactly. Yeah. No, they have their point. They're like, this is a hashtag believe women invisible man. Like this is they went fully into it. And listen, it is tense.
Yeah. Well, let's figure out what movie we're going to watch next. You have a scare die. I have a style die. We'll roll these two up, see what movie matches those two things that we roll. So, Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, our next horror film is something with a contagion, something contagious in that movie. If you roll a 2, it's a haunted house movie. 3, dolls or clowns are the scare. 4, a sadist. 5, when animals attack. And 6, bad mom.
Oop, that's a 2.
Haunted house.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so we're going to match up your haunted house with whatever I roll on the style die. If we roll a 1, it is a Latin American film. If we roll a 2, it is a splatter film. 3, something from the 1970s. 4, something that is LGBTQ+. Not just that gay people or LGBTQ people like the movie, but that it actually is about LGBTQ characters and or issues. 5, if we roll a 5, it's a psychological horror, something mostly bloodless. 6, something just what the fuck did I just watch? Something crazy. All right, let's see what we got. I also have a 2. I have a splatter film.
Ooh, okay.
Splatter and haunted house.
All right. Well, we have 2 heavyweight contenders for this.
Tell us about those 2 heavyweights.
Let's see. The ones that we put on here were Evil Dead 2, a classic.
Mm-hmm.
You love it. I love it. We all love it. Cabin in the Woods.
Yep.
Ash versus the Evil Dead accidentally unlocks the Necronomicon.
Uh-huh.
Definitely haunted as fuck, that house.
Yep.
And also the original Amityville Horror, which the original Amityville, I don't think I've ever seen in its entirety, because like when it was always like on TV kind of thing, so it was like chopped up or like had the swear words taken out, or it was always a like TBS kind of movie. So splattery, I don't know if the Amityville Horror is too splattery, but we do what we can here.
In my mind, it's probably more gross than splattery.
Yeah.
But again, never seen the movie. I'm thinking about the book, which I don't know how much the movie holds to that. All right, let's talk about what our Letterboxd followers gave us. Cronenberg TA throws out just Evil Dead 1.
Yeah, sure.
But we did get a lot of people seconding the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Brave Crab throws out City of the Living Dead, 1980. Sounds like it should be about zombies, but has the ghost of Father Thomas terrorizing people and some wild gore.
Ooh, okay. This sounds interesting.
I don't know.
City you know what? And this is one of those that like I immediately recognize it from the movie box. Like this was like when back when Family Video, Blockbuster Video was a thing. This was one of the hallmarks of the horror. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued by City of the Living Dead, and I think might get us some more splatter than something like Amityville would.
Yes, I think you're right. I can't tell if this is. I think this is a another Hellmouth movie type of thing.
Yeah, it does look like something like that. For
Weaponized
sure.
Toaster throws out Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell from 1995. Bodybuilder Shinji meets his ex-girlfriend to help with her research on haunted houses. Accompanied by a professional psychic, they visit an abandoned house where they find themselves trapped and tormented by a ghost with a 30-year grudge. This sounds
Okay,
fun.
this looks insane. This looks
Uh,
very yeah, like this looks like it could be a lot of fun, very cheesy. Some fun a horror here. Some fun Asian horror.
um, so the next person is Neo Ash Attack throws out Baskin, which is a Turkish horror film from 2015. The let's see here. Hold on 2 seconds. Got lost. So okay. Neo Ash Attack gives us Baskin, which is a Turkish horror film from 2015. The description they give is, while taking a break, a unit of cops receives a distress call over the radio directed to an abandoned building in the middle of nowhere. They soon find themselves trapped in a surreal and nightmarish world. Mm-hmm.
Looks really interesting. Looks very heavy on the creepy monster special effects too.
It really does. We've also got from Cellar Door throws out Toby Hooper's Funhouse.
Never seen this one.
I haven't either. It's a literal haunted house, and I feel like if it's Toby Hooper, it's going to be splattery.
Yeah.
Ganymede's Cup gives us Malevolent. A haunted house investigation becomes a fight to survive some gory violence. Florence Pugh stars in this movie. Crossword Hero gives us Deadstream from 2022. A ghost-chasing YouTuber meets his match when he enters a very haunted house. Big horror, dose of comedy, occasional splatter. I've seen this movie. This is a really fun movie. I wouldn't call it as splattery as it's scary. But yeah, Night of the Demons comes from Horror Lectures, 1988 film.
That's a good one. That is definitely a haunted house meets splatter film.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Night of the Demons. Yep. I was just about ready to announce what we had put on there. I was like, isn't Night of the Demons kind of a haunted house as well?
Okay.
So yes, I'm right there with your Horror Lectures.
One we've talked about before on the show, Fifth Hammerer, The House by the Cemetery, 1981.
Oh, yeah.
We brought this up on our list before. Beloved of Isis gives us Death Spa, 1989. Customers at an exclusive fat farm are haunted by a force which turns exercise equipment into deadly killing machines. Is this Trauma?
This sounds insane. Death Spa.
Henrik Erlandson gives us Beyond, which we have not done. We did From Beyond. That's Lucio Fulci, and they're talking about The Beyond. B. Harps gives us Evil Dead Rise, 2023. M. DeCoste gives us House on Haunted Hill, 1999. Cabin in the Woods, TK. Is that haunted?
Yes, maybe.
Splattery.
Sort of.
Definitely
splattery. Sort of.
Milu Hu gives us Haunt, 2019. A group of friends encounter an extreme haunted house that promises to feed on their darkest fears. The night turns deadly as they come to the horrifying realization that some nightmares are real.
Okay, this one's from Ree. It says Amityville 2, The Possession from 1982 is much more of a splatter film than the first one. Tells the story of the previous family to live there, though they have a different last name.
Oh, okay. Because the story, I do remember from the book, from the novel, even though I think it was framed as nonfiction. Yes, that the part of the story was the mass murder of the family that lived in that house before. So it sounded
maybe we skipped right through Amityville 1 and just like we just pick it up with Amityville 2, which is a prequel, and then our minds explode. And then we have Ryan Reynolds on the show to talk about his portrayal of this in the reboot. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right. Martin gives us The Convent, 2000. College kids break into a long abandoned convent with an urban legend attached to it that leads to some great gory fun. Okay, we have a few more that I'm just skipping over that are just giving us other variations of Evil Dead. There's been a lot of remakes and sequels and series and stuff. All well noted. So, what are your front runners here, Cecil?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Wow. Okay.
I've never
City.
seen Evil Dead, by the way. I've seen Evil
You've
Dead
never
2.
seen Evil Dead 1. Okay,
No, I've never
you've never
seen the
seen Evil
first.
Dead 1. That's interesting.
Yeah.
City of the Living Dead looks like fun.
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh. I
Amityville
don't
2
know.
sounds interesting.
Amityville 2, also the Funhouse. I don't know. Is it haunted? Is it Toby Hooper?
Yeah.
Sort of we're kind of getting our clowns and dolls sort of thing in there.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Funhouse looks great. Looks cool. I would also just Baskin looks really interesting because it's Turkish
Baskin
horror.
looks really interesting too.
And it does look like some pretty gnarly monstery effects. Those all sound fun. What else do we have?
This is a
Night
tough
of the
dice.
Demons. Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons. Actually, I think I might bump up Night of the Demons to either Night of the Demons. Here's my two: Night of the Demons or City of the Living Dead. With maybe a third runner being Amityville 2.
Okay, yeah. Night of the Demons, this is 2000. No, wait, what year is this? Night of the Demons is 1988, right?
88, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this looks dope as shit.
And it's pretty, it's like it is a pretty iconic horror film. For a couple of reasons. This is a much beloved, like, Return to the Living Dead kind of, like, the characters, high 80s, the soundtrack, the clothing are very, very oft quoted in the horror movie circuit.
Okay, so listen, City of the Living Dead is an easy sell for me because it's Lucio Fulci, and he's become my favorite director. But we have done a lot of Lucio Fulci on this show. So maybe
if we can survive tarantulas slowly crawling at your face in the middle of a library, we can survive anything, right?
We can't get Sarah Griffin for every episode.
As much as we'd like to.
As much as we would love it. So I'm kind of leaning towards Night of the Demons, 1988, right? This was you had this thought in your head before we even got
like
to the
literally
list.
I was looking at the grid being like, oh yeah, I should put that one on there, and then I just didn't.
And
then somebody else
horror lectures gave it to us, and I think that's where we should go.
I will possibly be watching Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell on my own time, just for my own fun benefit.
Yes.
But that one gets the miscongeniality, I think, for this one.
And honestly, this cover art, this movie poster for the crazy looking demon holding up a little party invite. You're invited to my party, Angela.
Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you fucking are. Yeah, Night of the Demons I think that's the move.
Okay, let's do that then. Well, that was fun. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on The Invisible Man or ideas for other movies that would have been good, Haunted House meets Splatter, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or on Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for each episode. And you don't have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch Night of the Demons from 1988 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no secret cell phones in your attic or nothing. Boo!
Boo! Secret cell phones in your... Oh my God, this movie.
Boy.
I feel like I just need to wash my brain out with something like Great British Bake Off.
Yep.
I need the most benign, nothing will hurt you ever again kind of moment after watching The Invisible Man.
Yep.